And I seem to be the only person in the world who thinks this, because this movie is cleaning up. I think it made an $80 million first weekend, which in 2024 is amazing. Everybody seems to love it. And the only ones who don't are snobs who want it to be Godzilla -1, and I'm not that either.
Hello everyone, welcome back. We are back. The Eye of the Storm. I'm here with my boys Daniel and Heavy.
Hey.
And before we get into the main discussion, guys, best recent thing we've seen.
I can start. So the best thing I watched last week was Kingsman. Now I'd seen it before, but it was a long time ago, and I guess I didn't really pay attention to it because I enjoyed it this time a lot more than I did in the past. Especially after having seen Argyle, which is made by the same director and is supposed to exist in the same world somehow. And it just does a lot more things right than I gave it credit for the first time I watched it. So it's got clear characters, it's got a coherent story, it's got exciting and inventive action, and it's actually got a thesis. It's actually kind of a dissection of the idea of class, or of like social class. That it actually has really interesting things to say about, and articulates them and makes arguments and demonstrates its ideas and all of that. And all of that is wrapped up in an exciting spy action movie. So I enjoyed that quite a bit, and more than I thought. I kind of put it on Saturday night, just not expecting much, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, is that the one with Kingsman? Is that the one with guy?
With who?
Is it Modip? What's the name?
No, that's a different character.
What was the film that he played King Edward, King Arthur? But he was the main actor in that film.
I think that was something completely different.
Yeah,
that's different.
It was on Netflix as well. Maybe I'm bugging out. But,
yeah, this has Colin Firth, Sam Jackson, Mark Strong, Michael Caine, whole bunch of great actors. Yeah, but it basically does all the things I complained about not being in Ghostbusters. Like inventive action, and that carries the story forward, and character themes that are intertwined with the action and with the plot, and they all support each other and drive each other forward. Like if it was actually kind of interesting after seeing Ghostbusters to see this one again, because it basically it's like on that level it's kind of the antithesis of that one.
Shout out Ghostbusters for making you appreciate all the movies better.
Yeah. They're taking one for the team.
I didn't watch too much this week. Actually, I watched another episode of Three Body Problem. It's a great show, man. There's so much intrigue in there, and everything that's kind of like unraveling at the moment. It's fantastic. If you watched last week, you saw that I loved it. Jonathan was okay on it. Daniel kind of tuned out after half an hour, but it's getting very interesting for sure. So that's my thing.
For me, I watched a film called 999. I don't know if I saw it before. I don't remember if I watched. I think I watched it before. I'm not too sure, but it felt fresh. And pretty much 999, a bunch of corrupt cops involved with the Russian mafia get into sticky situations. Yeah, it was on Netflix. It was fun. It was a fun movie. There's usually not much to say about it. It's just seeing corrupt cops involved with the Russian mafia. Well, you know what I'm saying? It speaks for itself, mate. Well, yeah.
Cool. I guess on that note, is it Godzilla X Kong or is it Godzilla Kong? Like, what?
Godzilla X Kong. Is it New Empire?
The New Empire, yes.
New Empire, yes.
Jonathan. What a title meant to be pronounced.
Jonathan, tell us, what did you think?
It was a CGI fest, but not a bad one. A fun one. I had a good time, man. It definitely isn't something which is going to be known for its storytelling, because let's be real, the storytelling in this. Let's just say the storytelling in this was nowhere near in comparison to how good Godzilla -1 was. But in terms of the action that you will see in this film, it's very fun. Like it was a fun film. I think they went all out when it comes to the whole CGI and just the whole world. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just done a real good job between, with Godzilla and Kong and obviously the antagonist. I was a bit it felt like a bit of an anticlimax when they revealed the main antagonist, though, because from the trailers I was expecting it to be, I wasn't expecting it to be that, you know what I'm saying, from what we saw, but he was still like his fear factor, his fear factor started to grow a bit on me, because at first I saw him like, what the hell is this guy on? Like, what's he gonna do? But then, the more that they started to, the more that you see him, it's like, oh, okay, this guy is getting a bit scary, and like stakes are getting a bit high with this guy. But yeah, like this is just a fun movie. It's action packed and it's entertaining, but yeah, it's when it comes to its storytelling, yeah, it's not. It's basic, man. You're not really gonna get nothing much from the story itself, but it's a fun film, and yeah, you're gonna have a good time, I believe.
Yeah, this is a good movie. Suffice. I actually had a lot of fun with this movie, and more fun than I actually probably thought I was going to have going into the movie. Like how I like enjoyed it was you just had to switch your brain off and not question anything, because anytime like something happened and I almost questioned it, it became very stupid, and very quickly I was like, okay, let's just ignore it. Let's just enjoy what's being on offer at the moment. I mean, there was a lot to like about the movie. I liked how Godzilla was on his like Thanos shit. Like he was just like kind of going around killing different titans. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but he was kind of going around collecting energy for this sort of a big final battle, which was a bit of an anticlimax. Him kind of going around collecting all this energy, and how it was used towards the end, it was just a bit. It wasn't really, it didn't land, stick to landing. I thought like King Kong's story in this was somewhat enjoyable. Gave him some, good character motivations and stuff like that. That was, quite good. And on the most basic level, it was enjoyable as well. I felt like a lot of the action was super entertaining in it. There's one scene that we'll talk about later in the spoilers where King Kong's fighting a bunch of different apes, and that fight sequence was very entertaining. Towards the end, it almost lost. Again, I had to just like completely switch my brain off to what was happening and just enjoy what was on show. So yeah, towards the end, almost lost me. I switched my brain off. I enjoyed it, and it was a good movie, very enjoyable.
So it looks like we have some stuff to talk about. So my first big caveat is that I was forced to watch it in 3D because of scheduling.
No.
That was available to me, and that didn't help. It's the first time I've seen a movie in 3D, and now I know what everybody has been complaining about all these years. It's just terrible. It's just disorienting, and and there's all these artifacts on the screen, and it makes everything blurry and dark, and so that certainly didn't help. And maybe I would have enjoyed the movie more if I'd seen it in 2D. Like they say, I don't know what the big deal about 3D is. The real world is 3D, and I go to the movies to escape the real world. So anyway, this is not my favorite kind of kaiju movie, right? This doesn't have the grit of the 2014 Godzilla movie. It doesn't have the human drama of Godzilla -1. It doesn't have the detailed world building of Pacific Rim. But you have to take a movie on what is offering you and judge it based on that. And if it's offering you just brainless fun of kaiju fighting each other and smashing into things, it's not that great. Like the ending, I thought was good. What delivered on that, and there were a few sections within the movie, but in order to get there, you have to sit through 90 minutes of exposition and character drama that's kind of disconnected from everything else. And I think if you're going to enjoy the movie, it'll be because you think that payoff is worth it. And for me, the juice was simply not worth the squeeze.
I understand where you're coming from. You know what I'm saying? I think everyone is different in the sense of what can kind of drag them over the line with certain films. So for you, for example, you need, for it to be a good story. Like there's some things that you can overlook. Like let's say, for example, I remember you mentioned in Godzilla Minus One, you said the CGI looked terrible, but you
Yeah.
overlooked it because they had such a good story.
Yeah, and you don't go see Godzilla Minus One for the amazing spectacle, and therefore it's not that big a deal. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, but then the point was about other people, for example, like me, for example, I think what can drag me over the line sometimes, not all the times, but like a lot of the time, actually, let's just say 50-50. Sometimes what can drag me over the line is the entertainment value. Like the story may be caca, but like, the entertainment value can, I can last through it. And I think for me in this film, literally, that's what pulled me over the line was, it was entertaining. Like the fights were entertaining. But what I don't understand with I don't know, Hollywood, when it comes to these big like budget films, why does it feel like it's one or the other? It's like, cool, if we give you a big CGI spectacle, we can't give you a good story. But if we give you a good story, then we can't give you a great spectacle. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like that's why when Dune 2 came out, everyone was amazed. Like, whoa, they're creating films like this during this period where there was a big, just big chunk of time where they weren't releasing good films. That's why Big Dune 2 was so refreshing. But it's felt like that for quite some for a couple of years now when it comes to Hollywood and these big, production films. It's like there has to be one or the other. And I don't know why it's like that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think if we knew the answer to that, we'd be very rich, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that is kind of why I mentioned the whole turn your brain off thing, like that I went into that expecting that, right? And unlike you, Herbert, I just can't do it. I can't I want the story to support the action, and I want it to motivate it. I wanted to set stakes. And I think a good action sequence has to have its own narrative. And, that I thought was kind of lacking in this. And I seem to be the only person in the world who thinks this, because this movie is cleaning up. I think it made an $80 million first weekend, which in 2024 is amazing. Everybody seems to love it. And the only ones who don't are snobs who wanted to be Godzilla Minus One, and I'm not that either. I don't know. Are my standards for action too high? But then again, I watched Kingsman last week, and that did it. John Wick does it. Dune does it. Terminator does it. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's asking too much that the two kind of support each other and work together and both work. Or is it?
No, I don't. I don't think it's asking too much. And again, normally I'm like you saw our review for The Beekeeper earlier this year where it just didn't make sense to me and I couldn't get on board with it at all. And I don't know why it worked for me this time out. I don't know why this movie had enough to kind of carry it through for me, but it just did. I don't know. Yeah, it's a difficult one to explain. But definitely I do agree. It doesn't really take too much to even kind of like tidy up the story a little bit. I feel like King Kong's motivations were quite good in terms of like him being displaced in the new world and trying to find other people like him. I was very much kind of on board with that. And to kind of like speak on you saying about the action complementing the story, I felt like when he was kind of ambushed by the apes in that in that particular scene, and he discovers the little mini Kong, which then takes him to this whole camp of like all these other apes that are like working extremely hard and stuff like that. I felt like that probably kind of worked in a sense for me, and that was one of my that was quite entertaining for me in terms of discovering that there's other King Kongs like him. The whole fight sequence was like great, and then that then led to him finding more of his kind. I don't know whether you agree on that or not, but yeah,
I thought it was kind of meandering. Like,
yeah,
basically, first of all, the exposition where they explain all of this is really clunky.
Yeah.
And kind of embarrassing, I thought. But just the basic setup of you have this tribe of apes that has been locked away for however long centuries, however long, and is now coming back, and Kong has to rise to the occasion, but he knows he has to team up with Godzilla to do it because he can't do it on his own. Maybe because he's the details are a bit fuzzy. I guess he's the last of his kind and he can't do it alone or something. Like all of that, like there's nothing wrong with that basic idea. I just thought the way it unfolded, A, didn't terribly make sense, and 2, wasn't all that interesting. Like his whole trek into the into the ape tribes territory and challenging their leader and being defeated and then getting the mecha arm and all of that. I don't know. Maybe that's just taste, but I didn't think it amounted to very much.
No, I mean, it definitely wasn't anything spectacular, but for me, it was above average in what they were doing. Quite often you get this whole thing about you've got the young person trying to kind of like live up to like the older mentor and trying to like do things to kind of win the approval of the older mentor and stuff like that. And I felt like what was good in this movie, you almost like not a complete reverse of it, but you have like King Kong, who is wanting to connect with his people. He's still kind of like a little bit more like laid back and whatever, like very assured in himself, but he's like doing everything he can to try and like prove to this like mini Kong that like he is like friendly and like he wants to like be friends and like not be friends but like connect with more of like his people essentially. And I felt like that kind of story worked enough for me for it to like carry through through the movie. And again, like this whole like Godzilla kind of going through finding different titans, sucking up all the power because he's being called by this tribe to sort of fight this war. Like, I mean, everything about the human aspect of this was very weak and very stupid. And I, couldn't care less about it whatsoever. But the idea of Godzilla going to like essentially like power up, absorb all these different any energy sources essentially for this big final battle because he almost died last time. Was quite interesting as well. I mean, they didn't really show too much of it, but the basic principle of it was quite interesting. And yeah, I felt like that was enough. Everything about like the human element of it, the mother-daughter relationship was just like a bit whatever. Like I couldn't care less too much about that.
But then they did spend a lot of time on that, right? For something that doesn't matter. I'm okay with the humans not mattering. Like personally, I care more about what it's like to be a human in a kaiju dominated world. Mm-hmm. But then that's how that if you want that, you can get Godzilla -1, you can get Pacific Rim and others. I went in knowing that it's not that kind of movie, but then I got it over an hour of that stuff.
Yeah, which dragged it down a lot. The daughter was like extremely jarring in this movie.
Terrible acting.
Terrible acting. Yeah,
it's bad form to complain about child actors, but she had one mode, which was slightly concerned. Mm-hmm. Right? It just didn't quite work for the amount of screen time that she got.
Did you guys thought she was jarring? I just thought she was like
no, like not very good.
No, it was just like every time that she was like, again, like you said, like trying to show concern or trying to like be upset, it was just like it was just jarring. Like I could just feel it just didn't fit within.
And sometimes you just don't get lucky with your child actors, right? You hire them. I think she was in the last movie, and then you hire maybe a 10-year-old, and then at 15 they're not a great actor or something. That happens, and that's that. Then you're stuck with it, and you make the best of it. And it wasn't terrible. Like that's not the reason the movie failed for me. Or no. If it failed, I wouldn't even say that. It's just not that great. But everything else about her as well, like from a writing perspective, also like nothing about like they want you to think that there's an arc about family and belonging and identity, and there isn't. Like there's no lesson that's learned. There's no arc. There's no journey with a conclusion.
It's just
right? Or is there? Like I didn't think she learned any lesson or had any experience that made her reconsider where she belonged. Right, I thought the performances was especially from the mother was fine. Like that sold that just fine. It just it seemed like they cut out the middle part of the story where the actual arc happens.
It's like that the line that was at the end where she's like, "Oh, wherever you go, I go. Basically, I belong to you."
Yeah,
that wasn't earned at all in the movie. There was like at no point where you felt like there was like maybe like a bit of conflict whether she might want to stay with the tribe or not. None of that was like even remotely hinted at. It was just like she assumed and it didn't happen, and it was just it wasn't.
And she did start off in a place where she didn't fit in at like in American society, and but that doesn't like it has a start and has an ending, but it doesn't seem to have the connection.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the human interactions all around wasn't really like it wasn't really noticeable in the sense where they were just there. I think they were just there to just fill in pieces, if that makes sense.
And it was the bulk of the first 90 minutes.
It was, but I was honestly, bro, I couldn't even there wasn't a highlight moment for me when it comes to the interactions that we saw between the humans. Everything for me, I just remember is the CGI. Like if this was like a literal, if they could have made this into an animation film or a freaking CGI film where
But that's kind of my point, that if it's not important to the movie, why are you spending most of the movie on it? Like how much of that can you sit through before it gets good and it's still a good movie?
You know what's crazy? It doesn't even feel like for me personally, it didn't feel like majority of the film was revolved around the people. I don't know why. Even though you are right, but it just doesn't feel like it, because I think it's because the not iconic moments, but the memorable moments was from the CGI and what was going on in their world. But in terms of the human interactions, you are right, Daniel, but I just didn't feel like it because I can't remember what the hell any significance from the interactions.
And they do a lot of stuff, right? They do a lot of there's the family stuff, and then there's the exploration of Hollow Earth, and then there's the expanded mythology of the history of Hollow Earth and the history of the Iwi and how they all fit into it all. And I didn't think that really had much to do with what came in the end, because we're all there for the big fights, right? Yeah. And I actually looked up some clips from previous Godzilla movies in this, in the MonsterVerse, in the same franchise, just to check my snobbery, right? Am I too good for big monster fights, right? And no, in Godzilla versus Kong, the fight on the aircraft carrier, or in King of the Monsters, Godzilla's fight against King Ghidorah, or I think it was in Godzilla versus Kong where the two team up against Mechagodzilla. That's all exciting. That's got good visuals, and it's got a choreography to it, and there's tension, and there's a narrative to it. And I just felt that was largely lacking. For example, I didn't like do the apes have a name? The bad guys?
Scargiver was
Scargiver is the leader, right?
Yeah, I don't know if the other apes had a name.
So did you buy that they were this big looming threat that had to be stopped? Or were they a bunch of apes?
They were just a bunch of apes.
Yeah,
we're told they're this big threat, and they're this epic threat that couldn't be defeated, that had to be sealed away, and that is now returning, and that Kong can't stop, and we see him try and fail, and that's all well and good. But is it? It seemed like there were a whole bunch of pieces missing, right? Where I didn't understand the stakes. Why is everybody so it's seemingly 15 apes or 12 apes, and they're domestic, and they're tamed kaiju, and that's kind of it. There isn't an army. They're not going to subjugate all of Hollow Earth. Mm-hmm. I understand that it's bad news for the Iwi, but why does anybody else care?
Yeah, I think the stakes were more so for Kong than anything else, and I don't know why humans got involved, but
and why did Godzilla get involved? He got the call from the Iwi, okay, but why does he make it his mission?
Well, it's because it revolves around Kong, really. So Kong kind of got everyone involved.
No, but didn't they say that they had a fight with Godzilla and he just about barely survived last time, if I remember correctly?
I think that was Kong, right? Kong is supposed to be the guardian of Hollow Earth, and he narrowly won.
Is that? Are you sure? Because Kong didn't even know about these other apes existing, and I'm sure that's why
I took it as he the last time he prevailed, and because now he isn't strong enough anymore, they're calling in Godzilla as well, and so those two have to team up. That's kind of my
maybe I missed something because I thought that was like the whole thing of like Godzilla going to like power up and like get like the radiation and sort of the other Titans like sort of energy sources was because
he's powering up because he's getting the distress call. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, why does he care? Why like they make this huge deal out of the territory issue, right? Where Hollow Earth is Kong's domain and the surface is Godzilla's domain, and as long as those are the two apex predators, and if they don't meet, then as long as they don't meet, they're not going to fight, right?
Yeah.
Like a huge amount of time is spent on establishing this and explaining it and showing it, and then Godzilla still goes into Kong's territory, and Kong invites him, I get, right? But like that seems to be, it seems like they set something up and didn't pay it off, because if the territory is the big thing, right, and these are supposed to be monsters that act on instinct, right? So they have a certain way of behaving, and you can't fight them. You can just survive them and get out of the way, right? That's the whole thing about kaiju. If they have this territory thing going on, and they just fight all the threats within their domains, that seems to be completely undermined by the end. Or does it?
I don't know.
Because, or put another way, if it all just comes down to the two team up at the end, why spend all this time talking about territory? Because the world doesn't matter, right? Like, well, there's no time spent on explaining what the world is like, what life in this world is like.
I feel like the only like payoff for it was, Kong being above surface would then attract Godzilla for him to then bring him down to Hollow Earth, because they needed a reason for Godzilla to come down to Hollow Earth, and the presence of Kong would attract Godzilla to then drag him down. And I feel like that's the only.
And he kind of lured him down, right?
Like, lured him down,
and then kind of ran and
and brought him down, yeah. And I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that's the only reason.
But Godzilla has spent the entire movie preparing for the fight, not against Kong.
But maybe for the fight to come to him. For the fight to come up.
But he's being called by the distress beacon. Like, he's preparing to go down to where the distress is.
You see, I was not paying attention to so much of the sort of human interactions in this, clearly, because
I thought he was preparing for the fight against the other what's the ice monster looking thing called?
Where he took down the other kaiju to take their energy, basically. Yeah. That's how. Which is strange to do that and also raid a couple of nuclear power plants.
No, I'm talking about Scar, the one that Scar had prisoner.
Oh, the ice kaiju.
Yeah. I thought he was stealing all the freaking, what do you call it, energy, radiation, whatever the hell.
So he was banking energy for the fight.
Yeah, for the fight.
He cracked open a couple of nuclear power plants to eat the radiation, and they made a huge deal out of that. But then he also went to fight a couple of kaiju, presumably to take their energy. I don't know. That wasn't entirely clear to me. But he's basically, he gets the distress call, realizes what it is, and starts. He's doing a Dragon Ball, right, where he just keeps powering up until the fight happens.
Yeah.
And he does that by eating the radiation from the power plants and defeating a couple of kaiju, which he could have, I guess, defeated at any time. And then when he's powered up, he turns pink, and that is when he is at his maximum power, and that's what he needs to fight Scargiver, apparently.
He probably, obviously, so he doesn't even know what the threat is, obviously, because you just stated that.
I'm not sure how.
Yes, well, you're not sure how he doesn't know.
I'm not sure how he would know. Like, doesn't he just get a general we need help kind of thing? Or is this the in case of Scargiver break glass kind of scenario?
It's not. I don't know. I don't know if it's. I don't know if I'm.
It's like maybe this like people. I think people are going to say, well, that's all nitpicking. You're questioning things that don't need to be questioned. But the bulk of the movie is this, right? They spent a lot of time setting this up and establishing all the details and giving all this exposition. Why not simply, like, you could imagine, like, it's not just about the internal in-story logic, it's also about why did the screenwriters put that there, right? Couldn't they have had more focus on the actual fight or lead up to it, or maybe Scargiver's army rampages across Hollow Earth, and there's a whole bunch of smaller battles that all culminate to when they start to reach Kong's domain or Godzilla's domain. I mean, something like that, right? So given all the different options they had, why did they spend all this time on setting up this kind of confusing and detailed setup that doesn't end up mattering in the end? And am I wrong to care?
No.
Because I seem to be the only one.
No, I don't.
Not at all. You're not wrong to care. This film definitely does have its flaws. It's just like I just think the main focus of this was just to make it entertaining. And
but did they? That's my whole point. I'm on board with 2 hours of children playing with action figures. Okay, I'm okay with that. I enjoyed King of the Monsters, except like and that one, it was almost all monster action, and you could just tune out the occasional cut to bad human characters. But here the balance is completely different. Not only is the action worse, in my opinion, but also the balance is completely different. Where we spent all this time on setup of things that everybody says is not important in the movie, but then why are we spending so much time on it? And I'm repeating myself, but that's kind of my that's my big hang up. That's what I can't get over. Why is it okay for this movie to waste so much time on things that nobody's supposed to care about?
Well, it kind of falls back into the whole switching off your brain thing, because obviously you say you can't agree with that concept of being able to switch off your brain to the boring parts, but obviously switch it back on to the good parts. And I think it just comes down to that, because obviously it's being successful.
I can sit through like 10 minutes of it, 20 minutes, not 90.
Well, you're gonna have to argue to the people who spent 80 million, bro. The box office sales. But to be fair, Rotten Tomato scores isn't that great. So I do think people do agree with you to the point, like with the whole, it's not a great story whatsoever. And I do agree, like we all agree with each other. It's not a great story. But
I think we disagree about how much it matters. I'm genuinely I like the idea of kaiju movies. It's just the action actually then has to be the point. And I've watched movies like this and I've enjoyed them. Godzilla vs. Kong, King of the Monsters. I watched Skull Island with the sound turned off because I like the imagery and the fights and the monster designs and this weird ecosystem. I just can't stand the characters. But in that one, the balance is again different. Like you can just immerse yourself in this environment and in this exotic, strange, deadly environment. And I don't think you can do that with this one.
Do you know what? Like, I can only speak for myself, and what I can say is that I enjoyed Kong's story and I enjoyed Godzilla's story, and that's what carried the movie forward.
What's Godzilla's story?
He's powering up. He's going around killing titans to power up for this big final battle, and it's not like a kind of he's not really a massive part of the movie until sort of the final battle, but just seeing him in action was just kind of entertaining enough for me, and that's
also So didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go on.
Did you think that Kong and Godzilla teaming up was a plot point that worked, or does it just happen?
It just happened.
Yeah, it kind of just happened, didn't it?
It just happened. You had like that, like kind of like Mothbird, Spider-Man woman that was going around webbing people, who came and just like made them see sense apparently, and that there's this enemy that they need to fight together, and that was it.
That's another weird thing, right? So I have seen all of the MonsterVerse movies, and I still don't have a good handle on who Mothra is or what she wants exactly. I kind of understand that she's not the evil one, right? Like she generally wants to protect people from the fallout of the kaiju, like rampages. And so she seems to kind of be neutral until Godzilla needs her help, and then she intervenes. That seems to be kind of her deal, and somebody who really knows the Godzilla canon probably is yelling at the screen right now for how wrong that is. But her actions and the way she was summoned and all of that didn't seem that intuitive for something where you're not supposed to know and you're not supposed to think about it. Like I kind of just had to go along with it, and it didn't quite make sense to me.
I mean, I just liked all of that part of the movie, like how they had to like summon her, how like the girl was like a special one from like Skull Island or whatever. Like none of that really landed to me. Like even like her whole character was just a bit of a miss for me, and I just tried to block her out of the movie as much as I could.
Okay. So besides CGI, right, and besides the story, was there anything that you liked, or you said, okay, I see what they're doing with this? Something that you can give them credit for, at least.
I think it was all. Go ahead. I've been talking.
No, I was gonna say, like, I don't think there was a moment where I was like, I could see what they're doing with this at all. Maybe again with the Kong stories, like literally is the only thing that really like grabbed me in this movie, of him trying to find more of his people. But I feel like my highlight, of the movie was just like the fight with the apes, and it was just funny, like, especially when he was like using the mini Kong to beat the other apes. It was just like pure entertainment. It was just like funny. That I feel like that was like the best action sequence for me, to be honest. But in terms of saying, what they were trying to do, like I get that, they're trying to like, build on the mythology and stuff like that, and maybe like introduce some new kaijus and stuff like that. But it's all kind of like background noise, like, and it should have been background noise. And like I completely understand where Daniel's coming from, where where you spend too much time on it, it becomes a bit more of a problem for for him. But for me, I was able to more tune it into background noise compared to what Daniel was able to. And do you know what? I actually really
quite expensive background noise, isn't it?
It's very expensive background noise, but I really do wish that we'd actually had a little bit more of a focused story on Kong's journey. I know it's a Godzilla, Kong movie, but I would have enjoyed a little bit more of a focused movie, like focused story on sort of Kong's journey himself, and sort of trying to discover his people, finding out that there's there's this sort of leader that's treating all these other apes badly, and obviously him wanting to come in and like be the savior and be the hero and stuff like that, and like fend off the bad guy and stuff like that. That if they'd spent more time on that would have been a little bit more entertaining. Would have been sort of more entertaining, even though I did sort of still enjoy this movie.
I'm not going to argue with you saying to spend more time on, making it about Kong, but in terms of like what the film was about, it kind of did revolve around Kong, because everyone was kind of fighting for him. So, and that's what I kind of found interesting, because I don't remember what Kong was like in his previous movies, but in this film, it felt like he was kind of like becoming a king in a way. Because in his previous films, did he have like did he have monkeys under his command, or monkeys he was looking after? Okay, so this film, it felt like he was becoming actually the king of the jungle. So that's actually what I kind of enjoyed. I kind of did enjoy his story, and I felt like it was not emotionally gripping, but my emotional heartstrings were pulled a bit when he entered the whole monkey cave or whatever, where they were pretty much in slavery, and then he was facing against Scar. That was kind of like my favorite part in the film, because that's where like, oh, my emotional heartstrings were getting pulled a bit. But yeah, so this did kind of feel like it was kind of revolved around, in a way, and it was kind of like seeing him becoming that king. Now, I do agree. They should have spent more time on it, because that could have been a good storyline. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, if they did do that, then shouldn't they have just released a Kong film rather than Kong x Godzilla?
I mean, you can have those two plot threads that converge at the end, right? Sorry?
What would Godzilla's significance be in then?
I don't know. I mean, like at that point, you're rewriting the movie entirely, right? It's not just fixing one or two things. Like if the whole thing is about being territorial and how we are now in a place where the world is divided up between these two titans, and humanity kind of exists in the margins, and we are just starting to learn to coexist with them and coming to terms with the fact that we're not the top of the food chain anymore, and can't just science or engineer our way out of any problem. That all has potential, but that's clearly not what this movie wants to be. This is kind of what Pacific Rim is about, right? Or leans into a little bit, but that's not what this movie is about. Like you would like giving Kong, like all Godzilla does in this is get the distress call, power up, go to the fight, and then he still has to be tricked into the fight. That's what he does, right? So
I think his job was
changing that basically means rewriting the entire thing.
I think his job also was kind of like to build up to the mystery, because obviously people were trying to figure out what the hell the threat was.
Yeah.
So.
But we know the apes are coming.
Sorry?
We know the apes are coming. Like, there's no mystery there.
For a period, we didn't know that it was apes, and it was slightly disappointing that it ended up being some apes. And you could probably predict that it was going to be apes as well, or whatever. But there was like a period where it wasn't explicitly said that.
So okay. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. But yeah, to answer your question, I can imagine things you could do, like it would have been interesting if the idea of territory had been more important, and if the way humans exercise agency in this is to trick the Titans into doing what they want, right? Like that you can't reason with them, but you can manipulate their instincts. And in this case, it's the instinct to defend their territory or something. So if you need Kong and Godzilla to team up, then you have to lure the threat to where both will be, like to the boundary between those, like something like that, right? But that's a different story entirely. I think as the movie exists, you can't do much more with Godzilla.
That's what I'm gonna say. Like with Godzilla's character, where is the development? Like, what's gonna happen next with him? Because it just feels like he's just like not brain dead, but just a monster.
Yeah, that's the trouble with having kaiju as characters, right?
Mm.
Like I keep coming back to Pacific Rim, but I love that movie so much. But there's a reason why they refer to them as hurricanes, right? They are forces of nature, and you survive them or you get out of the way. You don't fight them, and they certainly aren't characters exactly. But Godzilla and Kong are characters now. And now we have to give them arcs, and we have to give them motivations, and I don't know where that leads.
But with Kong, it can lead somewhere, because it does have some sort of resemblance to what's going like in society now in terms of gorillas. Like you got humans trying to teach gorillas to do certain things. So with Kong, like there is room for improvement and development in his character. But for Godzilla, on the other hand, like what you said definitely applies, because it's like this guy's nature is just to kill, kill, kill. And there wouldn't really be much of a story in his when he was young, for example, because he's just like, bro, like he's literally he's just born to kill, like whenever he feels threatened. So what else could you do with his character? But because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a third. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be another film, because the way that this is going in terms of its box office success, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be another one. So
I don't know the Godzilla canon well enough to know what else they can do. Like they've like the names that I could list, they've already done. But there's dozens and dozens more that you can just come up with one. But that means like there's another one, and Godzilla fights them and wins, and
Yeah, that's why I'm just thinking, what are they actually gonna do with? It's just gonna. It looks like it's just gonna be revolved around Kong again, because I just don't see. I just don't see.
But aren't they both at the peak of what they can be? Like they've already divided up the world, and they all are absolute like at the apex of that respective ecosystem and all of that. Like where do you go from there?
Who knows? Kong might meet Mrs. Kong. Godzilla might meet Mrs. Godzilla.
Sure. That's another thing that I'm not entirely clear about. Like, are they a species, or are these like these immortal beings that have been doing this for millennia and centuries? Like, did there used to be a Kong like a giant ape population, and Kong was one of them? When Scargiver was imprisoned, was that Kong, or was that a previous Kong, or the the chief of the previous ape population that governed Hollow Earth? Because they make it sound like it was Kong himself. But that means they're immortal, right? Or live basically forever.
I mean, there's an idea. Godzilla X Kong, the prequel.
Sure. Yeah, they're in college together, and they go on a road trip.
Sorry, speaking of motivations, what completely jarred me as well in this movie was Scargiver's motivation to go and dominate Earth and like enslave Earth. It was just like, what's the most generic thing that we can give this character as a motivation? And it's like, oh, we just want to go and enslave Earth. For what reason? We have no clue. Like what beef he had, or why he.
Wait, you knew about Earth? I thought he just. I I didn't know he. I thought. Wait, I didn't know he knew. I thought because when he discovered where the people were living, I don't know what they referred to. I don't know what they referred to
Maybe
as.
it's research. Do you mean the research outpost or the EV?
Where the girl's from.
Iwi tribe was where the Iwi tribe
Tribe,
was.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and then
apparently there have been people living in Hollow Earth the entire time because it's said that that tribe is, is the custodians of the crystals, and they have been the entire time. And Kong was the protector of the people, and so on. So it looks like humanity is from Hollow Earth in this world. And
also that's the Earth that he was trying to conquer.
yeah, but either way, it stands to reason that when he's conquered Hollow Earth, he will find the gateways and then see that there's more stuff.
Yeah. Okay,
So the
that's
threat
the Earth
I thought made sense.
Okay, so that's the Earth that you're referring to.
But like again, if I like understood incorrectly, it was like he was trying to like get to actual Earth itself and not solely conquer Hollow Earth.
I think it's just a conqueror. He would just keep going until he stopped.
Yeah, I thought he just discovered because when he saw the portal.
That was like their gateway to it. That's how I took it, was like, oh, here's a pathway for us to get to Earth, basically, as opposed to, oh, here's a portal, we don't know where it leads to, and it might lead to somewhere new for us to conquer, essentially.
I thought he just didn't know. I thought he literally just saw portals. I didn't know. You might be right, but I just didn't think that. I thought he just saw portals.
Yeah, because that's in the fight that they were like so desperate to like get through the portal itself, was to just like get onto Earth, as opposed to just fighting to like conquer this Eevee tribe and then discover what was like through there. And that's why he had like the little the ice kaiju sort of use this like force beam to like I think they had like this like gravity thing that they were doing in the movie, and he used the ice kaiju to kind of like almost stop it, essentially.
Was there a point to the gravity thing?
Sorry?
Was there a point to the gravity thing? Infinite of gravity for 1 minute?
So that they couldn't get through the portal, essentially, was what I got from it, was that they couldn't travel through it, was what they were trying to do with it.
They would only last for 1 minute.
Yeah, it would only last for 1 minute, so it didn't really completely make sense to me.
Maybe I missed something, but that was one of those convoluted things.
Yeah, where it's just like explaining stuff. I think it was just more, how can we like make some interesting action? Okay, you need to explain it. Here's an explanation.
You can just say that gravity doesn't work near the portals.
Yeah,
it's your floating monsters.
Yeah,
right.
You could, yeah, but they try to be clever, and they are maybe too clever for their own good.
So, because okay, Herbert, I'll ask you what. So, Daniel, you didn't have nothing that you liked about the film.
Oh, sure, there were one of the things. I like the idea that we saw other places, like having a kaiju fight in Rome. Well, that was neat.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a different scenery, or like Godzilla sitting on the Rock of Gibraltar. That was neat. After that, it's kind of already slim pickings. I don't know. I mean, like the human characters were just annoying. Like that conspiracy theory podcast guy is just so annoying. The one adult in the room, other than the main character, like the director, was that security guy, who I don't think even gets a credit on Wikipedia. But the Russian security guy who gets eaten as a cautionary tale to all adults in the room.
Yeah.
Like I want more characters like him.
What?
Yeah, like just as a personality. Like everybody else was joking and a cartoon character, and he was like trying to do his job.
Yeah, but he was so obviously like a dick about it. Like even when he's like being warned about.
But he's in charge of security, and they're messing around. Like you have to be a jerk in that moment.
I'm
not saying he was a great character. I'm just saying like finally an adult.
Yeah. Again, am I the only one that thought that the vet guy, I don't even know his name, the guy that was a vet, was like a bootleg Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy, with like the whole like singing and his like character and personality and stuff like that? I felt like it was a bit too similar, or like they tried to play it too similar, and it just kind of jarred me as well.
He's generic action adventure guy.
Yeah.
Always joking, big man child.
It was more like
in the end.
It was more with like the songs. So like when he comes in, he's like singing like as he's like looking down. Even like some of the song choices as he's in the ship and stuff like that was kind of giving Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe like I'm musically illiterate. I don't recognize songs. So I didn't see any significance in the songs.
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't. Yeah, I don't know. That just seems to be his character. That everything was kind of a joke to him, and he was the easygoing Australian if he was Australian.
The other problem I had as well was the fact that that whole crew ended up in Hollow Earth. Like, who sanctioned for this random podcast guy, this random vet, this little girl, and this? I mean, the woman and the security guy. Yeah, I understand.
But they do justify it, right? Like,
I mean, the podcast guy was like, "You owe me a favor." Like this whole.
He's also an expert.
He's an expert.
He's a crackpot, but he knows his stuff about Hollow Earth, and so he has to go.
Yeah, but
they do justify it.
But
it does mean like they don't even get security people. They don't get backup. It just feels all very flimsy. Like the entire world is basically paper thin, right?
Yeah.
Like Monarch doesn't feel like an organization. It's kind of just like the personal playground of these 4 people.
Yeah.
That was a confirmation that your point was right.
So that's one point.
Yeah. Oh man. So
and before we move on, I actually thought the movie commits another sin, which is it forgets scale. Like I did not get how big the apes were until the very end.
Oh yeah.
So that is like that's the whole thing of kaiju movies, that these things are huge. Like they are not just like they're not human sized, they're not just big, they are huge. They are so big that they don't even notice us really. Like that is the whole appeal of the genre. And they didn't like, especially when Kong was challenging Scargiver, there was zero attempt to reinforce how big everybody was. They didn't use the scenery, they didn't use perspective. And I think that's part of that is because there were no human characters around to witness them. But you could have used like rocks or trees or something for scale. And even if everything is big in Hollow Earth, there would have been ways. And them forgetting that, like when in the final fight scene, when one of the, I don't know if it's Scargiver or one of the other apes, kind of vaults over a skyscraper, I was surprised because I thought they were like 4 meters tall or something.
Yeah.
Like I kept forgetting how big Kong was, and therefore I forgot how big Scargiver was, and there was no visual reference, and the way they moved also didn't make them feel big. Or am I alone in this?
No, you're correct. But like I feel like I didn't think about it during the movie until like the very end fight, and then I was like, oh damn. And then when Mini Kong was there and he was a lot bigger than everyone, I was like, okay, damn, like these are like really big monsters. Yeah, it didn't.
That is a big sin when you're doing a kaiju movie. Like you have to constantly be reminded how big they are.
Oh crap! I had no idea.
Yeah. Like they aren't just big; they're titans, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is that humanity is just like ants to them, and we have to get out of the way and let them do their thing. Like that's the premise of the entire the genre has moved on from its nuclear bomb and metaphor that Godzilla was in the beginning, but still the idea of like Pacific Rim uses the hurricane imagery, right? They talk about like a category 4 kaiju or something. Like the whole point is that they're big, and you know when everybody on screen is a monster, it's kind of hard to make that matter, but you can still remind the audience of that fact. Not in every frame, but throughout the movie, and I felt like they didn't do it, especially not when Kong was among the other apes.
Yeah.
Okay. Besides Kong and Godzilla, was there any performances that you guys liked from any of the characters?
I mean, that's why Andrews does a fine job. Like that. I don't find that character particularly interesting, but you know, she does everything right. She's just not in a movie where she can do interesting things other than explain things and look concerned. Other than that, I just did not like any of the humans.
I won't go as far as like Daniel saying I like all the humans, because I thought the podcast guy, I forget the name of the actor, but he's in a few different things, and he's always good. He's always like a bit of a highlight. I feel like they probably like toned him up a little bit too much in this movie, and he could have maybe toned it back a little bit. But
I mean, he did what he was hired to do. I just don't like that kind of character.
Yeah, which I agree. But he's normally like a really good actor. Really loved him in Bullet Train as well. But yeah,
I didn't like the Iwi at all. They had no personality.
That's all.
The Iwi, Just in general, they had no personality. And the fact that they don't talk doesn't make it easy. But like, there's nothing to them other than they know everything and they're perfect in every way.
Mm-hmm.
They live in perfect harmony. They don't have any problems other than the plot. Just not interesting.
I don't know if you guys have mentioned this, but were there any highlight scenes that were memorable for you guys?
I mentioned the ape fight because Godzilla versus the apes. I will say as well, I know we didn't really like Stargiver, but his first entrance when he sat in his seat and then he stood up and he's like leaned back a little bit and he's just got like a slight different pose to like all the other apes. I thought that was cold. And I was like very on board until like things started to develop. But just like that opening instance of him, cold. I loved it.
Yeah, I think Skygiver's design is fine, and when he sits on the throne and he realizes what Kong is there to do and all of that, that's fine. Like that's not bad.
Yeah.
I liked the kaiju in Rome, like that. Like I always like when they show up these weird and obscure kaiju that don't fit into like the standard templates.
Mm-hmm.
And this crab tentacle thing, like I just like those designs.
Yeah.
That certainly was neat. The other kaiju I could take or leave, but that one was neat.
Yeah, I also did like the aspect of the final fight that I did like was just how they were just destroying everything. You could see the destruction. They were just like tearing through buildings, and you're just thinking about everyone that's died. Those scenes like that I enjoyed as well.
And I was a little bit ambivalent about the monuments that were being destroyed. Not just one, but two, like the pyramids and the Colosseum.
Yeah.
Not that I have a problem with it happening, right? It's more like it was very kind of casual about it.
Yeah.
Like nobody talks about it.
Hmm.
I want the movie where they talk about how to preserve these things in the existence of a kaiju. If you should just write them all off, or something. But I understand that it's not this movie. But some acknowledgement, like even just newscast, like news report voiceovers about how another monument has been destroyed, and like little flavor here and there would have been nice.
Nah, I definitely agree. Hi guys, I think we just need to go to last thoughts because we've said everything there is to say about Godzilla X Kong.
I don't think it's the worst thing. Like it's okay. It's just number one, I don't understand why everybody likes it so much, especially considering that within its own franchise, I think it's one of the weaker ones. Like the others had more fights and more interesting fights, and if that's what we're here for, then doesn't that matter?
Is that your last word, Daniel?
That's my last words.
What would you rate it?
5 out of 9, maybe.
Cool.
It's meh. It's just meh. It's 5 out of meh.
Okay.
It's okay. It's not the worst. I did not have a good time watching it because there wasn't enough to get engaged with. But I've seen worse.
I enjoyed it a little bit more than Daniel did. I thought it was above average. It was better than average type of movie. I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10 in ratings. It's an enjoyable watch. Like if you can, if you're one of those people that can just go and just like want a bit of a spectacle, you just want to just see some action between some big monsters, you'll enjoy the movie. And it's kind of proven, with the sort of Rotten Tomato scores and sort of how much money it's made. It's just like it's not Shakespeare, and that's fine. People enjoy it, and it's all good.
Well, me, wait, what'd you rate? Oh, you said 6.5 out of 10.
6.5 out of 10, yeah. Maybe a 7. Maybe I'll give it a 7.
How do you rate the others?
I don't recall. See, I've never really been too much into these type of movies. So like the Godzilla vs Kong movie, I don't think I even watched it. I watched Skull Island a long time ago. I think I did enjoy Skull Island, King Kong Skull Island, and then the only other one was King Kong with Jack Black in it, which was like in the 2000s, I believe, 2006 or something like that. And that I watched as a kid and actually really, really enjoyed that one. But I don't normally go out of my way to go and watch these type of movies.
Did you watch Godzilla 2014, the one that started all of this?
No.
I highly recommend it, and I would be interested to see what you think about it, because everybody who likes the more recent versions hates the first one, and I love the first one. I think it's by far the best movie out of the entire series, just as a movie. And that seems to be that old thing where if you like the main franchise, you don't like the one that's different. If you dislike the main franchise, you like the one that's different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to make it my mission for it to be my best recent thing watched next week.
I don't know if I think they pulled it from Netflix.
I'll be able to find it.
I'm not sure. It might still be on there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like Bryan Cranston is great in it. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Wait, how are you gonna say?
No, I said I'll add it to my list. That and Morbius, which I still need to get to.
Can do a double feature.
Well, for me, I had a fun time. There were many flaws, but overall, I had a fun time. I do think it was better than Ghostbusters, but I am gonna give it the same rating as Ghostbusters, 6 out of 10. It was a fun movie. I think I would have loved the film when I was if I watched it in my younger years. Obviously, I'm older now, and of course, I've got a high expectancy when it comes to movies, and I do believe you should have a good storyline. With big budget movies, which we've been missing for quite some time. Hopefully, Dune 2 will reignite that. But yeah, man, it was a fun movie with many flaws, but overall, it's a fun movie that I think you'll have fun watching, based on the action scenes alone. But yeah, okay, guys. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. Next week we'll be discussing White Monkey?
Monkey Man.
Monkey Man. Oh, wasn't it White Monkey? My bad. Monkey Man. Oh. Is Monkey Man?
It's Monkey Man.
Oh. But isn't he referred to as the White Monkey in the trailer?
The character is called the White Monkey.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll be discussing Monkey Man next week, so please tune into that. Hervey.
Yeah. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
All right, guys. Thank you, and we will catch you next week. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.